Marcus Reed was 10 years old when he walked into a biker bar and threw a blood-stained photograph onto the table in front of 8 of the most dangerous men in California. "My mom says you owe my dead father a promise," he said, his voice shaking but his eyes fearless. "And the Russian mobster who's been hunting her for 12 years just kicked down our motel room door 3 hours ago, so either you honor that promise right now, or we're both dead by morning." Inside Rusty's diner, the Sunday night gathering of the Devil's Shepherds Motorcycle Club was in full swing. The corner booth belonged to them every week, had for the past 15 years. 8 men sat around the table, their patched leather cuts telling stories of roads traveled, brothers lost, and a brotherhood forged in fire and loyalty. At the head sat Reaper, the chapter president, a man whose silver-streaked beard and scarred knuckles spoke of 5 decades lived hard and honest. "So I told the cop," Blackjack was saying, his voice carrying over the clatter of plates and the jukebox. "You can write me that ticket, but you're gonna have to explain to your sergeant why you pulled over a man doing exactly the speed limit." The table erupted in laughter. Then the bell above the door chimed, and a small figure stepped inside. The laughter died. The boy stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain that had started falling outside. His jacket was too thin for the weather, his jeans torn at the knees. But it was his eyes that made Reaper's hand pause halfway to his coffee cup. Those eyes were old, too old for a face that young. They were the eyes of someone who'd seen things no child should see, carried burdens no small shoulders should bear. The boy walked straight toward their table, ignoring the stares from other diners, ignoring the waitress who tried to ask if he needed help. He walked like a soldier approaching a minefield, scared but determined. When he reached their booth, he stopped and pulled something from inside his jacket. It was a photograph, worn and water-stained. "My name is Marcus Reed," the boy said, his voice shaking but clear. "And I'm looking for the men who saved my mother's life 12 years ago." Reaper took the photograph with hands that had held guns, clutched brothers as they died, and guided motorcycles through 1,000 dangerous miles. Those hands trembled slightly as he stared at the image. It showed a younger version of himself and 7 other men standing in what looked like an abandoned warehouse. And in the center, wrapped in a blanket and staring at the camera with eyes full of terror and hope, was a young woman. Written on the back in faded ink were 8 road names: Reaper, Tank, Wrench, Smoke, Blackjack, Razor, Devil, and one more name that made Reaper's throat tighten: Ghost. "Where did you get this?" Reaper's voice came out rough, like gravel under tires. "My mom kept it hidden," Marcus said. "She told me if anything ever happened to her, if we were ever in trouble we couldn't handle, I should find the Devil's Shepherds. She said you were the only men in the world she trusted. She said a man named Ghost gave everything to get her out." Tank, a mountain of a man sitting to Reaper's right, leaned forward. His voice was gentle despite his size. "Son, what's your mother's name?" "Isabella Reed. She was Bella Martinez back then." Marcus's hands clenched at his sides. "She's dying. The doctors say she has maybe 3 months. The cancer spread to her liver and lungs and we don't have insurance. We've been living in a motel for the past 2 months because we got evicted, and yesterday..." His voice cracked. "Yesterday a man found us, a man from her past. He said he's been looking for her for 12 years. The temperature in the booth dropped 20 degrees. Reaper stood slowly, his 6'3" frame unfolding like a knife being drawn. "What man?" "She wouldn't tell me his name. She just grabbed me and we ran. We've been hiding in the bus station bathroom for 2 days. She's so sick she can barely walk, but she's terrified. She made me promise to find you. She said Ghost made a promise and that you'd honor it." Tears were running down Marcus's face now, but his voice never wavered. She said the devil's shepherds protect what Ghost died protecting. The 7 men at the table exchanged glances that carried entire conversations. Ghost had been their brother, their friend, the man who'd pulled 3 of them out of burning buildings in bad situations more times than they could count. He'd left the club 12 years ago after that warehouse rescue, said he needed to disappear, needed to make sure whoever he'd taken Bella from could never connect her to the devil's shepherds. 6 months later, they'd gotten word he was dead. Motorcycle accident in Nevada, or so the story went. But they'd never quite believed it. Now looking at this boy with Ghost's determined jaw and that same fearless stare, Reaper understood. Ghost hadn't run from responsibility, he'd run toward it. "Wrench," Reaper said quietly. "Get your truck. Tank, call Doc Reynolds, tell him we need a house call. Smoke, clear out the back room at the clubhouse." He looked down at Marcus. "Son, you're going to take us to your mother right now? And then you're both going to tell us everything." Marcus's shoulders sagged with relief so profound he nearly fell. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Reaper placed a heavy hand on the boy's shoulder. "We don't thank family for doing what family does. Your mother was saved by one of our own, which makes her one of ours. And you?" He met Marcus's eyes. "You've got Ghost's blood in you, I can see it. That makes you a shepherd's son. We protect our own, always, no matter what." 20 minutes later, Wrench's pickup truck pulled into the Greyhound station parking lot. Marcus led them through the building to the women's bathroom, where he knocked 3 times, paused, then twice more. A weak voice called out, "Marcus?" "It's me, Mama, and I brought help. I found them." The stall door opened and Reaper's breath caught. Bella Martinez had been 19 in that photograph, young and terrified but alive. The woman who emerged now was barely recognizable. She couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds, her skin stretched tight over bones, dark circles under eyes that had once been bright. She was dying, that much was obvious. But when she saw Reaper, recognition flashed across her face. "Reaper," she whispered. "You came." "Always," he said simply. "Ghost's promise is our promise, Bella. You should have found us sooner." Tears spilled down her hollow cheeks. "I couldn't put you in danger. Victor Constantine has connections everywhere. He's Russian mafia. He owns half the trafficking operations on the West Coast. When Ghost got me out, Victor swore he'd find me, make an example of me. Ghost disappeared to keep you all safe, to keep me safe. I thought if I stayed hidden, if I never reached out—" She coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Marcus flinch. "But he found me anyway, and I'm out of time. I can't protect Marcus anymore." The name Victor Constantine hung in the air like a death sentence. Every man there knew that name. Russian mob, brutal and efficient, with a trafficking network that stretched from Seattle to San Diego. If Victor was looking for Bella, it meant he'd never forgotten, never forgiven. "You don't have to protect him anymore," Tank said, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "That's our job now. Let's get you both somewhere safe." They wrapped Bella in Smoke's jacket and carried her to the truck. Marcus climbed in beside his mother, and as Wrench started the engine, the boy looked back at the 4 motorcycles following them through the rain-slicked streets. For the first time in months, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. The Devil's Shepherd's clubhouse sat on 5 acres of land 20 miles outside Sacramento, hidden behind a grove of oak trees and a fence that didn't look like much but would stop anything short of a tank. The main building was 2 stories of weathered wood and corrugated metal that had once been a warehouse, converted over the years into something between a fortress and a home. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs of rides and rallies, fallen brothers memorialized in frames, and the club's colors displayed proudly. They settled Bella in the back room on the 1st floor, a space that had been Tank's until 5 minutes ago when he'd moved his stuff upstairs without complaint. Doc Reynolds arrived within the hour, a retired Army medic who'd patched up more bikers than he could count and asked fewer questions than most doctors. He examined Bella while Marcus sat on the floor outside the door, arms wrapped around his knees. Reaper sat down beside him. "How long has she been sick?" "About a year. She started coughing all the time, losing weight. By the time we got her to a free clinic, it was already bad. Stage 4, they said. They gave her some pills but said surgery was the only real chance. And that would cost," Marcus's voice broke, "$200,000. We had $3,000 in savings. I got a job washing dishes after school, but it's not enough. It's never enough." "What about your father?" Marcus shook his head. "Never knew him. Mom said he was a good man who died doing something brave, but she wouldn't tell me more. I used to think maybe he was a soldier or a firefighter. Now I'm thinking—" He looked up at Reaper with eyes that already knew the answer. "His name was Daniel Cole," Reaper said quietly. "Road name Ghost. And your mother wasn't lying. He was one of the bravest men I ever knew. The night we pulled your mother out of that warehouse, there were 8 of us going in against 20 armed traffickers. Ghost went in first. Didn't hesitate. When things went sideways and bullets started flying, he covered the exit while we got your mother and 3 other girls out. Took 2 rounds in the back doing it." Marcus's eyes widened. "He survived?" "Ghost was tough as they come. Made it out. Healed up. But he knew Victor Constantine would hunt everyone involved in that rescue. So he left. Told us he was going dark to keep the heat off the club and off your mother. We didn't know about you." Reaper's jaw tightened. "If we had, things would have been different. Ghost made us promise that if anything ever happened to him, we'd watch over your mother. We've been looking for her for 12 years, son. We just didn't know where to look." The door opened and Doc Reynolds stepped out, his expression grim. "She needs to be in a hospital. The cancer's aggressive and she's severely malnourished. I can stabilize her here, manage her pain, but without serious intervention, you're looking at weeks, not months." "What's serious intervention look like?" Tank asked. "Surgery to remove the tumors, aggressive chemo, round-the-clock care. And money. Lots of it. Even with insurance, you're looking at $100,000 minimum, probably more." Reaper stood. "Then that's what we do. Tank, call church. Get everyone here. Blackjack, reach out to the other chapters. Let them know we've got a situation. Wrench, I need you to work your computer magic. Find out everything about Victor Constantine's current operations." He looked down at Marcus. "You stay with your mother. She needs to see you when she wakes up. We're going to fix this." "How?" Marcus asked. "You can't just make that kind of money appear." Reaper smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who'd built an empire through loyalty and sometimes through actions that lived in the shadows. "Son, we're the devil's shepherds. We've been moving heaven and earth for our brothers for 40 years. Your mother and you? You're family now. And we don't let family down. Ever." The next morning, Marcus woke to voices in the main room. He'd fallen asleep on the floor outside his mother's door, and someone had covered him with a blanket. Rising stiffly, he walked into the main room and stopped dead. There had to be 30 bikers crowded into the space, all wearing the Devil's Shepherd's colors, all focused on Reaper standing at the front. "Brothers," Reaper was saying, "most of you remember Ghost. The ones who don't have heard the stories. 12 years ago, Ghost gave everything to save innocents from a monster. Now that monster's found Ghost's family, and Ghost isn't here to protect them, but we are." He let that hang in the air. "We've got 2 problems. First, Bella needs medical care that costs money we don't have lying around. Second, Victor Constantine is actively hunting her and the boy. We need solutions to both, and we need them fast." A biker with gray in his beard stood. The Fresno chapter runs a charity ride every year for kids with cancer. We've got contacts at Valley Medical Center. I can make some calls, see if we can get Bella enrolled in their financial assistance program. Good, Reaper said, do it. Who else? I've got a cousin who works in medical billing, another man offered. She's helped navigate insurance nightmares before. I'll bring her in. My old lady's a nurse, someone else called out. She can help with home care, save hospital costs. One by one, solutions emerged. The Shepherds weren't just bikers. They were mechanics, businessmen, contractors, people with skills and connections built over decades. Within an hour, they'd mapped out a plan to get Bella into treatment, combining charity care, payment plans, and contributions from all 5 West Coast chapters of the Devil's Shepherds. Then Wrench stood up, laptop in hand. I've got information on Constantine. He runs his operations out of a nightclub in Oakland called the Red Room. Front for trafficking, drugs, and loan sharking. Here's the thing, he's been showing off on his social media, posted a picture 2 days ago with a caption about finding old friends. He turned the laptop around, showing a blurry image of Bella and Marcus walking near the bus station. He knows where they were. He's hunting. The room went silent. Tank cracked his knuckles, the sound like breaking branches. Then we need to send a message. Make it clear Bella and the boy are protected. Can't go to war with the Russian mob, someone warned. That brings down heat none of us need. Reaper shook his head. We're not going to war. We're going to have a conversation. Constantine needs to understand that Bella's under our protection and that touching her means going through all of us. Wrench, Tank, Blackjack, and Razor, you're with me tonight. We pay Mr. Constantine a visit. The rest of you, I want a rotation watching this clubhouse. Nobody gets close to Bella or Marcus without going through us first. Marcus, standing in the doorway, spoke up. You'd really do all this? For us? You don't even know us. Every head turned toward him. Reaper walked over and crouched down to Marcus's level. Son, your father saved 4 lives the night we raided that warehouse. One of them was Smoke's sister, another was Tank's niece. Ghost didn't know that when he went in. He didn't care who they were, he just knew they needed saving. That's what brotherhood means. You do what's right, no matter the cost, and you trust your brothers to have your back. He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Ghost had our backs for 15 years. Now it's time we have his. You're not alone anymore, Marcus. Neither is your mother. You're shepherds now. That night, 5 motorcycles rolled through Oakland toward the Red Room nightclub. They parked out front, making no attempt at stealth. When they walked to the door, the bouncer took one look at their cuts and stepped aside. Smart man. Inside, the club pulsed with bass-heavy music and strobing lights. Reaper led his brothers straight through the crowd to the VIP section where Victor Constantine sat surrounded by guards. He was a trim man in his 50s, sharp suit and sharper eyes, the kind of man who'd smile while ordering someone's death. When he saw the bikers approaching, his guards moved forward, but Constantine held up a hand. The Devil's Shepherds. I've heard of you. What brings you to my establishment? Reaper didn't smile. We're here about Bella Martinez. Constantine's eyes narrowed. That name means nothing to me. 12 years ago, you lost some property from a warehouse in Stockton. 4 girls taken in a raid that left 8 of your men hospitalized. One of those girls was Bella. She's under our protection now. Permanently. I see. Constantine leaned back, studying them. And you think walking in here, 5 against 50, is intimidating? No, Tank rumbled. We think you're smart enough to do math. You come after Bella or her son, you're not dealing with 5. You're dealing with 300 Devil Shepherds across 5 chapters, plus our support clubs, plus every biker who owes us a favor. You'd be fighting a war against people who've been riding together for 40 years, people who don't call the cops, don't go through lawyers, and don't forgive. His smile was cold. We think you're smart enough to decide that one woman who got away 12 years ago isn't worth that kind of heat. Constantine was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "The man who led that raid. Ghost, they called him. What happened to him?" "He died," Reaper said flatly. "6 months after he saved Bella, but his son lives. And we protect what was his." "His son," Constantine studied Reaper's face. "You know, there's a certain poetry to that. Ghost took something precious from me. Cost me money, reputation, 3 dead men. I spent years looking for him, for the girl, for anyone connected to that raid. And now you walk in here and tell me the girl has a son, Ghost's son, and that you'll go to war to protect them." "That's right." Constantine was quiet again. Finally he nodded. "I'm a businessman, not a fool. A vendetta from 12 years ago isn't worth a war with the devil's shepherds. Consider the matter closed. Bella Martinez and her son are no concern of mine, but—" His eyes hardened. "If I ever see any of you in my territory again, if you interfere with my business in any way, this truce ends. Are we clear?" "Crystal," Reaper said, "stay away from our family. We stay away from your operations." They shook hands, a gesture that felt more like 2 predators acknowledging mutual danger than any kind of friendship. Then Reaper and his brothers walked out of the Red Room and didn't look back. On the ride home, Tank pulled up beside Reaper at a stoplight. Over the rumble of their engines, he shouted, "You think he'll honor it?" "For now," Reaper shouted back. "Constantine's smart. He knows we're not bluffing, and we've got insurance." "What insurance?" Reaper grinned. While we were in there, Wrench was outside uploading every piece of information he's gathered on Constantine's operations to 3 different lawyers, a journalist, and the FBI's anonymous tip line. If anything happens to Bella or Marcus, all that information goes public. Constantine knows how the game is played. He'll leave them alone because it's safer than the alternative. The light turned green and they roared into the night. Back at the clubhouse, Bella was awake. Marcus sat beside her bed, holding her hand when Reaper walked in. "It's done," he said simply. "Constantine won't bother you again. You're safe." Bella's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Daniel would—" Her voice broke. "He'd be so grateful." "Daniel's son is brave and smart and loyal," Reaper said. "Just like his father. You raised him right, Bella. Now let us help you raise him the rest of the way. Let us give you both the life Ghost wanted you to have." Over the next 3 months, Bella underwent surgery at Valley Medical Center. The Shepherds had worked miracles with their connections, getting her enrolled in a financial assistance program that covered 80% of the costs. The remaining 20% came from club funds, raised through charity rides, poker runs, and donations from supporters who heard the story and wanted to help. Marcus watched his mother slowly come back to life. The surgery removed the tumors in her liver and 1 lung. The chemotherapy was brutal, but Bella was tougher than she looked. She'd survived trafficking, survived 12 years of hiding, survived cancer's first assault. She wasn't about to give up now. During her recovery, the Shepherds took over raising Marcus in ways that went far beyond just keeping him fed and safe. Wrench, who had a degree in mechanical engineering, started tutoring Marcus in math and science. "Your dad was brilliant with bikes," he told the boy. "Could diagnose a problem just by listening to the engine. You've got his mind. Let's put it to use." Tank taught Marcus how to defend himself, basic boxing and grappling in the clubhouse gym. "Not because we expect you to fight," Tank explained, "but because a man who knows he can handle himself walks taller. Confidence, Marcus. That's what this is about." Blackjack, the club's storyteller, spent hours telling Marcus about Ghost. Your father once rode through a blizzard for 16 hours straight to get Smoke to a hospital after a crash. Refused to stop even when his hands were so cold he couldn't feel the handlebars. That's the kind of man he was. Loyal beyond reason, brave beyond measure. Smoke, the quietest of the brothers, taught Marcus how to ride. They started in the clubhouse parking lot on an old Honda 250. Marcus wobbling and nervous while Smoke walked beside him. "Balance is everything," Smoke said in his gravelly voice. "In riding, in life, find your center, trust yourself, and the road will take care of the rest." And Reaper, the president, taught Marcus about brotherhood. They'd sit on the clubhouse porch in the evenings watching the sun set over the oak trees, and Reaper would talk about what it meant to be part of something bigger than yourself. "The world's going to tell you that asking for help is weakness," Reaper said one night. "That real men stand alone, fight alone, suffer alone. That's the biggest lie there is, Marcus. Real strength is knowing when you need help and having the courage to ask for it. Your father knew that. The night we raided that warehouse, Ghost could have gone in alone, tried to be a hero. Instead, he called his brothers. He trusted us to have his back, and because of that, 4 girls came home alive. You did the same thing when you walked into Rusty's diner. You could have kept running, kept trying to handle everything yourself, but you were smart enough, strong enough to ask for help. That's why your mother's alive right now. Never forget that." Marcus listened, absorbing every word like a sponge. He was changing, anyone could see it. The scared, desperate boy who'd run through the rain was becoming someone different, someone stronger, more confident, more aware of his own worth. He started smiling more, laughing at Blackjack's jokes, helping in the clubhouse kitchen, doing his homework at the table while the brothers played cards nearby. One evening, about 4 months after that first night, Bella walked into the main room without help. It was the first time she'd made it that far on her own. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared. She smiled, tears running down her cheeks. "I thought you all would like to know. I got the test results back. I'm in remission." The room erupted. Brothers whooped and cheered. Tank lifted her off her feet in a gentle bear hug, and Marcus wrapped his arms around his mother and didn't let go. In that moment, surrounded by leather-clad bikers celebrating her survival, Bella finally understood what Daniel had tried to tell her all those years ago. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them most. That night, they held a party that lasted until dawn. Burgers on the grill, music playing, brothers and their families filling the clubhouse with laughter and life. Marcus sat on the porch steps watching it all, and Smoke came to sit beside him. "What are you thinking about?" Smoke asked. "My dad," Marcus said. "I wish he could see this. See Mom healthy. See me here with all of you." Smoke nodded slowly. "Ghost sees it. Maybe not the way you're thinking, but he sees it. Every time you help someone, every time you stand up for what's right, every time you remember that you're not alone, that's Ghost living on through you. That's how we honor the dead, Marcus. We become the men they hoped we'd be." Marcus looked up at Smoke. "Will you teach me more about him? About who he was before, about the roads he rode?" "Every story I've got," Smoke promised. "For as long as you want to hear them." The years that followed brought changes. Bella regained her strength fully and got a job as a medical billing specialist, using her own nightmare experience to help others navigate the healthcare system. The irony wasn't lost on anyone, but Bella said it gave her purpose. "If I can help even one family avoid what Marcus and I went through, then everything we suffered means something." Marcus excelled in school, his grades climbing as his confidence grew. He discovered a talent for engineering, and Wrench took him under his wing, teaching him everything from basic mechanics to complex electrical systems. By the time Marcus was 14, he could rebuild a carburetor blindfolded and was helping wrench with custom bike projects. But more than academics or mechanical skills, Marcus absorbed the values of the devil's shepherds. He learned that loyalty wasn't just a word, it was a choice you made every day. He learned that protecting the weak wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest, it was about being willing to stand between danger and those who couldn't defend themselves. He learned that brotherhood was earned through actions, not words. When Marcus turned 16, the club held a ceremony. Reaper called him to the front of the clubhouse in front of all the assembled brothers and spoke words that had been spoken to prospects for decades. Marcus Reed, you've spent 6 years riding with us, learning from us, becoming one of us. You've proven your loyalty, your courage, and your heart. You're Ghost's son, and you've honored his memory every day. Reaper held out a leather vest, smaller than the brothers wore but bearing the Devil Shepherd's logo. This is a prospect cut. You're not a full member, you're too young for that, and you've got school to finish, but you're family. You're a shepherd in everything but the patch. Will you wear this and continue walking this path? Marcus took the vest with shaking hands. Yes, sir, I will, I promise. Then ride with us, Marcus, ride with pride, and know that every brother here has your back, today and always. That summer, Marcus rode in his first official club event, a charity run to raise money for children's cancer research. 300 motorcycles stretched out in formation behind him, Reaper and the other brothers surrounding him in a protective diamond. When they reached the rally point and Marcus saw the crowd of supporters, the families with sick children who'd benefit from the money raised, he finally understood what his father had died protecting. This, community, hope, the idea that people who had nothing in common except a belief in doing what's right could come together and move mountains. But life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Marcus was 17 when Victor Constantine's name came back into their lives. It started with a news report. Federal agents had raided the Red Room nightclub in Oakland, arresting Victor Constantine and 17 associates on charges of human trafficking, racketeering, and murder. The evidence had been overwhelming, collected over years of surveillance. As Marcus watched the report with Reaper, something nagged at him. You said you uploaded information about Constantine to journalists and the FBI, Marcus said. How much information? Reaper's expression was carefully neutral. Enough. You've been feeding them intelligence all these years, haven't you? That truce you made with him, that wasn't to keep us safe. That was to buy time while you built a case strong enough to put him away forever. Sometimes the best way to protect people is to eliminate the threat permanently, Reaper said. Constantine honored the truce because he thought it was easier than fighting us. What he didn't know was that every day he left you and your mother alone was another day we were gathering evidence, tracking his operations, documenting every crime. The FBI didn't catch him, Marcus. We handed him to them gift-wrapped. Marcus stared at him. Why didn't you tell us? Because you and your mother needed to feel safe, not paranoid that Constantine might figure it out and retaliate. And because, Reaper met his eyes, because I made a promise to Ghost, not just to protect you, but to make sure the man who made your mother's life hell, who forced your father to die in hiding, faced justice, real justice. This was always the plan, Marcus. We just had to be patient. Later that night, Marcus found his mother in her small apartment above the clubhouse. She'd watched the same news report. Mom, he said quietly. Did you know? Bella looked at him, and in her eyes was something Marcus had never seen before. Not fear, not relief, but a deep, settled peace. Reaper told me 3 years ago what they were doing. I asked him not to tell you. I didn't want you carrying that weight. All this time, they've been protecting us and taking down Constantine, and we didn't even know. That's what real family does, Marcus. They carry the burden so you don't have to. They fight battles in the shadows so you can walk in the light. The devil's shepherds gave us more than safety. They gave us a future, and they made sure the monster who tried to steal my life and your father's life paid for every evil thing he ever did. Marcus sat beside his mother and they watched the news together, watching Victor Constantine being led away in handcuffs, his empire crumbling. And Marcus thought about Ghost, the father he'd never known, and wondered if somehow, somewhere, Ghost knew that his sacrifice hadn't been in vain. That the people he'd saved had been saved twice over. That his son had grown up surrounded by the best men the world had to offer. At 18, Marcus graduated high school as valedictorian. His speech was about second chances, about chosen family, about the men and women who'd given him and his mother a life worth living. When he finished, the entire Devil's Shepherds chapter stood and applauded. Leather and chrome and calloused hands, celebrating a boy who'd become a man. That fall, Marcus enrolled in mechanical engineering at Sacramento State University. He lived at the clubhouse, commuting to classes, working part-time in Wrench's custom bike shop. The brothers watched him grow into someone they were all proud of. Smart, capable, loyal, and kind. He had Ghost's determination and Bella's compassion, tempered by 6 years of being raised by men who knew both the darkness and the light of the world. During his sophomore year, Marcus started dating Sarah Chen, a nursing student he'd met in a physics class. He brought her to the clubhouse nervously, worried about what she'd think of his unconventional family. Sarah walked in, took one look at the leather-clad bikers watching her with protective suspicion and said, "So which one of you is going to teach me to ride?" The brothers loved her immediately. Tank took her out on the back of his Harley that afternoon, showing her what it felt like to lean into curves, to trust the machine and the rider. When they got back, Sarah's eyes were bright with adrenaline. "I want my own bike," she announced. Marcus laughed. "You sure about that?" "Absolutely. If I'm going to be part of this family, I need to ride with this family." And just like that, Sarah became part of the Shepherd's extended circle. She studied for exams at the clubhouse while brothers played pool in the background. She helped Bella with medical billing cases. She learned to change oil and adjust chains, working alongside Marcus and Wrench in the shop. When she graduated and became an ER nurse, the entire club showed up to her pinning ceremony, filling the back rows with leather and pride. Marcus proposed to her on the clubhouse porch where he'd spent so many evenings learning about life from Reaper. He got down on one knee with a ring that Smoke had helped him design, and Sarah said yes before he could finish asking the question. They were married at the clubhouse on a perfect spring day. Bella cried through the entire ceremony. Reaper officiated, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd of bikers and nurses, mechanics, and friends. "Marcus and Sarah," he said, "you're starting something today that's bigger than both of you. You're creating family, not the kind you're born into, but the kind you choose. The kind you build through loyalty and love and showing up day after day, no matter what." That's what the Devil's Shepherds taught Marcus. That's what his father, Ghost, died protecting. And that's what you two are going to carry forward. The reception lasted until midnight, filled with music and laughter and stories about Ghost that made Marcus feel like his father was there in spirit, watching his son marry a woman who understood what brotherhood really meant. 5 years later, Marcus and Sarah welcomed a daughter they named Daniela, after Ghost. The club threw a party that rivaled the wedding. Blackjack brought a tiny leather vest with property of Devil's Shepherds embroidered on the back. Tank built a custom motorcycle-shaped crib. Smoke carved a wooden mobile with tiny Harleys that spun in the breeze. And Bella, holding her granddaughter for the first time, whispered, "Daniel, if you can hear me, your son became everything you hoped he'd be. And your granddaughter is going to grow up knowing who you were and why you mattered." Marcus was 32 when Reaper got sick, Pancreatic cancer, aggressive and cruel. The diagnosis gave him 6 months, maybe a year with treatment. Reaper chose to forego aggressive treatment, said he'd lived a full life and wasn't afraid of what came next. "I've got one regret," Reaper told Marcus one afternoon as they sat on the clubhouse porch watching Daniela play in the yard. "I wish Ghost could have seen you grow up, seen the man you became." "He did see it," Marcus said. "Through you, through all of you. Every lesson you taught me, every time you showed me what it means to be loyal and brave and kind. That was Ghost teaching me through his brothers. He's been here the whole time." Reaper smiled, tears in his eyes. "You're going to do me proud, Marcus. As chapter vice president, you're already showing the next generation what real leadership looks like. When I'm gone, you're going to lead these men, and you're going to lead them well." "I learned from the best," Marcus said quietly. Reaper died on a Tuesday morning with the entire chapter around him, holding his hands and singing old road songs. They buried him with full honors, 300 motorcycles following the hearse in procession, engines roaring a farewell that echoed for miles. Marcus stood at the graveside and gave the eulogy, his voice strong despite the tears. "Reaper taught me that brotherhood isn't about blood or patches or club colors," Marcus said. "It's about showing up. It's about keeping promises, especially the ones that cost you something. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves and giving second chances to those who need them. Reaper gave me and my mother a second chance at life. He honored my father's memory by becoming the father I needed. And now it's my turn to honor his memory by leading this club with the same integrity, the same loyalty, the same fierce love for family that he showed me every single day." The engines revved 3 times in salute, and the Devil's Shepherd said goodbye to the man who'd held them together for 30 years. Marcus became chapter president at 33, the youngest in the club's history. Under his leadership, the Devil's Shepherds expanded their community outreach, running charity events for trafficking survivors, creating mentorship programs for at-risk youth, and partnering with law enforcement to combat the same kind of evil that Victor Constantine had represented. "We're still outlaws in spirit," Marcus told his brothers at his first official meeting as president. "We still ride free, we still live by our own code, but we use that freedom to protect people who need us. That's what Ghost did. That's what Reaper did. That's who we are." The club thrived under Marcus's guidance. New chapters opened in 3 cities. Membership grew not through intimidation, but through reputation. People wanted to be part of something that stood for real values, real brotherhood. The Devil's Shepherds became known not just as bikers, but as guardians, as men who drop everything to help someone in need. When Marcus was 45, he got a call from a social worker in Reno. A 12-year-old girl had walked into a police station carrying a photograph. The photograph showed Marcus at 19, standing with the Devil's Shepherds at a charity event. The girl's mother had kept it hidden, told her daughter that if she was ever in trouble to find the man in the center of that picture. The man with kind eyes and a leather vest that said Devil's Shepherds. The mother had been a trafficking victim, saved years ago in a raid that Marcus himself had helped plan back when he was learning the ropes from Reaper and Wrench. She'd gotten clean, built a life, raised her daughter alone. And then cancer took her just like it almost took Bella. The girl's name was Emma. And when Marcus walked into that Reno police station and saw her scared eyes and determined jaw, he felt like he was looking into a mirror, seeing himself at 10 years old standing in Rusty's diner. "I'm looking for the Devil's Shepherds," Emma said. "My mom said they protect people. She said if anything happened to her, to find Marcus Reed and show him this picture. Are you him?" Marcus crouched down to her level, just like Reaper had done for him so many years ago. "I am. And your mom was right. We do protect people, especially family. And if your mom was saved by us, then you're family, Emma. You're a shepherd's daughter, and we're going to take care of you." Behind him, Tank's son and Wrench's nephew stood ready, the next generation of devil's shepherds ready to carry on the legacy of protection and brotherhood. The cycle continued, as it always would. Marcus brought Emma back to Sacramento. Bella, now 70 but still sharp and strong, welcomed her with open arms. Sarah helped enroll her in school and therapy. Daniela, now 15 and already learning to ride, became Emma's big sister. And the devil's shepherds, 300 strong across 6 states, wrapped this scared, brave girl in a protection that would never waver. On Emma's first Sunday at the clubhouse, Marcus took her to the memorial wall where photographs of fallen brothers hung in places of honor. He stopped in front of 2 pictures. One showed a young man with a leather vest and a fearless smile. Ghost. The other showed an older man with a silver beard and kind eyes. Reaper. "These 2 men saved my life," Marcus told Emma. "One by rescuing my mother before I was born. The other by teaching me what it means to be a man. They're why I'm here, why this club exists, why you're safe right now. And now, you're going to help us carry on what they started." Emma stared at the photographs. "Your dad was a hero." He was. And so was Reaper and Tank and Wrench and Smoke and Blackjack. So was my mom for surviving and fighting for me. So was I for having the courage to ask for help when I needed it. Heroes aren't people without fear, Emma. They're people who are afraid but do the right thing anyway. Just like you did when you walked into that police station. Emma looked up at him. "Am I going to be okay?" Marcus smiled, and in that smile was everything Reaper had given him. Everything Ghost had died protecting. Everything the devil's shepherds represented. "You're going to be more than okay. You're going to be loved, protected, and raised by the best people in the world. You're going to grow up knowing that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them. And we showed up, Emma. We'll always show up. That's the promise Ghost made to my mother, Reaper made to me, and I'm making to you right now. You're home." That night, as the sun set over the clubhouse and motorcycles gleamed in the fading light, Emma sat on the porch between Marcus and Bella. She watched shepherds and their families moving through the evening, laughing and talking, and for the first time in months, she felt safe. "Marcus," she said quietly, "thank you for finding me." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "You found us, Emma, just like I found Reaper all those years ago. That's how this works. When you need family, when you're brave enough to reach out, the devil's shepherds will be there always." In the distance, engines rumbled as a group of brothers headed out for an evening ride. The sound echoed through the oak trees, a promise made in thunder and chrome, a legacy passed from Ghost to Reaper to Marcus and now to Emma. The shepherd's oath, spoken without words but lived every single day. Protect the vulnerable, honor the fallen, and never let family stand alone. The story of the devil's shepherds wasn't written in club records or news articles. It was written in the lives they'd saved, the children they'd raised, the second chances they'd given. It was written in Emma's smile, in Bella's survival, in Marcus's leadership, in the countless others who'd found safety under the shepherd's protection over 40 years. And somewhere in whatever place souls go when their roads end, Ghost and Reaper rode together, watching over the family they'd built, satisfied that their promises had been kept, their legacy secure. Because in the end, that's what brotherhood really means. It's not about the bikes you ride or the leather you wear or the patches on your vest. It's about showing up. It's about keeping promises even when it's hard. It's about protecting people who need protection and giving hope to those who've lost it. It's about creating family not through blood but through choice, through loyalty, through the simple act of refusing to let someone suffer alone. That's the shepherd's oath. That's the legacy of Ghost. And that's the promise that will be kept as long as even one devil shepherd rides the roads, searching for those who need saving, ready to offer protection, ready to prove that family is something you build, one rescued soul at a time. Marcus stood on the clubhouse porch, Emma beside him, Bella and Sarah behind them, and watched the sun disappear below the horizon. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people needing help, new promises to keep. But tonight, in this moment, everyone was safe, everyone was home, everyone was family, and that was enough. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join our family of road warriors who believe in loyalty, brotherhood, and second chances. Drop a comment telling us about someone who showed up when you needed them most, and hit that like button to help us share these stories of hope and redemption with more people who need to hear them. Remember, we're all just one act of courage away from finding our tribe. Until next time, ride safe and keep the faith.